experienced, Gopal continued to do well in school. Sadly, not all children are as resilient. Kin, like Gopal, was a victim of physical abuse. But unlike him, she never recovered from the ordeal. Kin, a secondary 2 student at a prestigious school, had just received the results from her last exam. She had scored average grades, but had passed all her subjects. While that would be cause for celebration for most teenagers, Kin was devastated and terrified. Her father would be home soon, and he would not be happy.
I did okay in school. I didn't fail. But if you were to compare me with other classmates who actually scored 85 and above, or even full marks for their exam, me just passing was like failing. I studied as much as they did, I guess. Perhaps I just wasn't at their level.
As she heard the key turn and the front door open, Kin braced herself for yet another beating at the hands of her father. 14-year-old Kin was an active and athletic secondary school student. She was on the school's basketball team, liked to swim, and took taekwondo classes over the weekends. She had done well in her PSLE exams and was accepted into one of the best secondary schools in the country. But that was when things started to go awry.
Primary school life was so easy for me. I studied everything and every subject just makes sense to me. I was even at the top of the level. I still remember getting accepted to my first choice in a secondary school posting. My parents were so thrilled that they went around telling their friends and relatives. Maybe they just wanted to keep boasting about me. But I just couldn't do it. Secondary school life was a real shock. Work is tough, and I had to struggle to make sense out of it. That was when I fell from the top of the level to just scraping through my exams.
The caregiver often possesses expectations of the child and a level of ability to nurture the child's development that meets the child's developmental and caregiving needs. 42-year-old Lee, Kin's father, was a middle manager in a shipping company. He had high hopes for his daughter and wanted the best for her. Everyone who knew him described him as an introverted family man, someone who kept to himself. No one would have imagined that he was capable of violent behavior. While Kin was doing well in school, he was pleased, but once her grades started to drop, he began to feel that she wasn't taking her studies seriously. Also, her increasing tendency to talk back fueled his anger and incited him to use more direct methods of making her obey. Kin's father appeared to be a caring, if strict, father, but he had a dark side that his daughter was all too familiar with. In secondary too, Kin started coming to school sporting bruises on a regular basis. When questioned by a concerned teacher, Kin tried to explain the injuries away by saying that she had sustained them while playing sports or practicing taekwondo. However, when pressed further, Kin revealed that she had an argument with her father over her grades. He scolded her for not having studied hard enough, and she answered back. When he tried to slap her, she pushed him away. This infuriated him even more, and he began to beat her, first with an open hand, and then with his fists.
I don't know why I talked back to him or even tried to defend myself. I know you actually make him even angrier, but I really couldn't help it. I cried because it hurts, not because I hope that he actually feels sorry. This has happened so many times. I knew he would never stop hitting me. He never did.
Okay, what are you doing? Huh? Huh? What are you doing in school?
According to Kin, her father had not only physically abused her, but her younger sister as well. However, the bulk of his aggression was directed at Kin.
Maybe it was a good thing. I like to think that if I wasn't there to take Dad's anger, she would have got beaten up even more. Although she's as messed up as me, I do wonder why Dad chose me.
Environmental stress and caregiver frustration are the major contributors to children being physically abused. However, the child may have characteristics that challenge the caregiver, making the process of providing care more complex, thus frustrating the caregiver. After Kin told her teacher about her history of being physically abused by her father, she begged the teacher not to tell anyone. Reluctantly, the teacher agreed. But she told Kin that if she saw signs of any more physical abuse, she would take action.
I believe that there are actually quite a number of parenting courses, parenting workshops and talks around actually. But what is more difficult for us is that we learn how to be parents through our experience of how we were parented as well. So some of these things do come out because our parents will probably say it worked on you, so you might think that it will work on your child as well. So I would say maybe in present day times, those workshops and talks will be useful, but at the end of the day, they will also need to maybe be a little bit more flexible in their approach depending on their own child, because every child is really different. And the environment that the child is going to be is also very different. So perhaps a very two-way kind of thing between your own experience with that particular child. If you have a few children, then each one will also have some difference. And then after that, see what might need to be maybe tweaked a little bit here and there.
Shortly after making her teacher promise to keep her situation a secret, Kin had an especially bad fight with her father.
All I wanted was to hang out with my friends after my exams, just like any other regular teenagers. I came home and he started shouting. I tried to explain as calmly as I could, but he started hitting me instead. He hates me. I know he hates me. After he was done, me and my sister was in our room. We were all bruised up, we were all crying. And that was when I thought to myself, enough is enough.
I belong to the school of thought where if violence can be minimized or not used at all, we should always do that. Because you never know what kind of impact you have on a child if you use violence on a child. For example, if you teach a child to reason, or you reason with a child from young, they will grow up wanting to reason with people. And to understand that there are things in this world that's unfair, they learn to reason. But if you use violence, if you use physical correction, most often than not, what we're relying on is fear and pain. So, questions that parents need to ask themselves is, do we want to bring up our children based on fear and pain? Or do we want to bring up our children based on reason and logic?
That night, Kin took her sister and ran away from home. The girls went to the home of Kin's teacher, who reported the incident to MCYS. In the ensuing investigation, Kin's father was deemed unfit to raise her. Her father was made to go for counseling and anger management classes, and Kin was sent to a home run by MCYS.
On one hand, I was relieved that I do not have to face my dad. I do not have to get worried about doing something wrong and getting beaten up. But life didn't seem to get better as it should be. I couldn't get along with the girls from the home, and my results fell from bad to worse. Maybe I got physically separated from my dad, but I just couldn't get away from what he did to me.
For children who go through abuse, they will normally would have be asking a question, why are my parents doing this to me? I may be naughty, I may not be the best child, but why do they have to hit me to such an extent? So they will probably be dealing with issues of their relationship with their parents.
For the parents, usually the perpetrator, the abuser, there's a lot of guilt involved. I think we need to have a lot more compassion sometimes for the parent, because more often than not, there are quite a lot of things that may have happened to them in their own childhood that they may not have resolved actually.
If they don't receive help to change some of these mindsets and some of this thinking in their mind, they naturally will gravitate towards violent solutions. Yeah.
If you or your child is facing any of the problems in this episode, do not hesitate to contact the numbers listed here. Help is at hand. Children have been found to be victims in most reported cases of physical abuse in Singapore, and disturbingly, recent statistics show a rise in the number of physical abuse cases involving children. One can only hope the rise in the number of such reports is due to the fact that children are now more empowered and are able to speak out against their abusers.